5%.
Okay.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I can use my hands.
Science rules.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
T minus 7 seconds.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Between where I'm standing and wherever you're sitting, there are millions of different types of plants and animals, millions of different species, all living together in an environment in something we call an ecosystem. Now, in order for an ecosystem to be successful, in order for it to be healthy, it has to have different kinds of plants and animals, lots of different kinds of plants and animals, something we call biodiversity. Now, biodiversity sounds kind of complicated, but if you listen, it also sounds kind of nice. This is the Earth, our world. All the living things that we know of live here, and they live in ecosystems. Places like tundras, taigas, savannas, grasslands, prairies, deserts, steppes, intertidal zones, subtidal zones, continental shelves, deep ocean zones, estuaries, deciduous forests, temperate rainforests, tropical rainforests, Arctic ice packs, wetlands, marine mudflats, and cities. That's a lot of environments, but there are a lot of living things to fill them up. The Earth's environments are just crowded with life. Living things take hold everywhere they can. Here's an insect living right on top of blades of grass. It's a living thing that lives on other living things. See, environments always have living parts and non-living parts. Some animals live on top of plants, some animals live in the water, some plants grow on rocks. It's all part of the ecosystem. Nearly 3/4 of the world's surface is covered with water. So most of the world's living things live here. It's just one ecosystem after another. Now, near as we can tell, all living things depend on other living things. So the more different kinds of living things in an ecosystem, the more successful it is. We call this biodiversity. Different kinds of life. We can think of an ecosystem as this wooden puzzle game. See all the different species? They all fit together, and they depend on each other to live. Now, you know, once in a while, a species will go extinct. It'll disappear from the ecosystem. And you can see how you could lose a few of those without too much trouble. But if you start to lose too many, the whole thing becomes a little rickety. Now, where do people fit in? Well, look, they fit in just about everywhere. Look, just about anywhere you can walk, you'll find people living, because people are living things, and they're part of the ecosystem. So, when we go to manage an ecosystem, we have to be careful about how things fit together, or there won't be a place for us. We have to be very careful. Extremely careful. Now, this hasn't happened yet, but it could. Ecosystems are a little bit like this game of sticks. You can't take one stick out without disturbing most of the other ones. The things that live in ecosystems depend on each other. They're connected. It's kind of cool.
So this is an ecosystem. And so is this. And so is this. An ecosystem is made up of plants and animals that live together in an environment.
You and I and every living thing are part of an environment. Now, environments will have non-living things too, like seawater, rock, sand, and silt. And in those non-living things will be living things, like fungus and soil, or algae and water. Or maybe you're a species that lives in a meadow, or in a tree. Anyway, it's important to realize how dependent plants and animals are on each other. You just don't seem to find one without the other. living things in an ecosystem depend on other living things. We find if we take one thing out, it's connected to a whole bunch of other living things. So where does that leave our species? Where does that leave us? Just kidding. Sort of.
So what we're going to be looking at today is biodiversity in a real small scale. Okay, out here in this sort of woodland area, we're going to be looking at biodiversity.
People who don't have waterproof shoes on should walk over here on this edge.
You know, you can look at biodiversity within like a 5-foot strip of ground, or within 5 miles, or within 5 minutes, you know, in any kind of scale you want to look at. Look at them real carefully. See all the embryos down inside, all those little spots? Okay, those are eggs. There's raccoons out here, coyote, fox, black bears, deer, porcupines, all sorts of creatures are out here. One thing to remember when we're out here is how much everything is just attached to everything else. There's a saying that you can't pick a flower without jiggling a star. Well, out here, anything you look at, if you took one thing away from here, you would affect everything else that's out here. There's a whole long chain of things, and if you start taking out one piece of the chain, the whole chain falls apart. We have to remember that we're part of that whole chain of what's connected to each other.
Hello? Hi, yeah. Listen, I can't talk long because I'm expecting a bunch of people to come down. Yeah, I think I see them. Yeah, they're here now. Yeah, I gotta go. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. That was my mom. We're in the largest ecosystem in the world. The sea, under the water. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. 2/3 of all the species in the world live down here. Lots of fish and different types of plants, but you and I can't live here. Because we couldn't breathe. Right. Duh. Along with the very large organisms and plants, very many tiny organisms are so small that you can't see them without a special instrument. Want to check it out? Science!
Here's 5 things you can do to help promote biodiversity. 1. Recycle glass and paper from your household. 2. Leave nature in nature. Don't bring stuff home from forests, tide pools, or deserts. You can look at it and admire it, just don't take it out of its natural place. Take a picture instead. 3. Plant a tree. Better yet, plant 2 trees. 4. Hiking or biking, stay on the trail so you don't disturb local plants and animals. 5. Don't put oil, gas, solvents, or anything for that matter in storm drains. It wreaks havoc on the ecosystem and damages the environment. Here's way more things you can do.
No litter. Have your mom use cloth peppers on your younger brothers. Recycle aluminum. Set up a bird feeder. Take a bus. Clean the beach. Clean. Fun. Wash your car on the lawn. Wash your boat with a scrub brush. Use bio-safe salts. Dispose of oils. Don't use too much insecticide. Don't overfertilize your lawn. Cool. Plant another tree. Be a friend. Tell your friends a lot. Don't mow your lawn too much. Kill snakes. Forget to get your mess.
This is a golf course. It's a big lawn. It's an ecosystem. It has all different types of plants and insects, and of course, the microorganisms we can't even see. And what keeps this looking the way it looks is people. That's right. If humans weren't here working on it all the time, it wouldn't look anything like it does right now. It would probably look more like this. There'd be a lot more diversity of life. Maintaining lawns is a choice our species makes.
Association with the National Science Foundation.
The world is covered by water. So almost all of the world's living things live here. It's just one ecosystem after another.